So this means that there is a little bit of a pullback coming, but it's no longer doomsday pullbacks, in my opinion. When we look at the total market cap as well, you can see that the total market cap still needs to play catch up to this. So I expect that total 2 and total 3, as it is filling this imbalance, this little block that I've got marked here in the chart, is going to still grind up to these upper levels, and there's going to be more alt gains to be had. Now, looking at when and where these alt gains can happen, because timing is key. Let's have a look at Bitcoin macro view real quick. So I've got Bitcoin here on the chart on the logarithmic side of things. So what I want to do is I want to quickly bring up the halving dates. So Bitcoin's inception, first halving, second, third, and now the next halving, which according to the data is going to be about 104 days from now. So we're speculatively looking at the 1st of May, thereabout. Okay. Now, if we look at this chart, we can clearly see if we put the all-time highs in, start the first cycle from its inception to all-time high to low, second all-time, or the first past the first halving, its first halving all-time high, second halving all-time high, third halving all-time high. It's clear to see that from the lowered percentage gain as Bitcoin matures, expect less. So it's worthwhile to say that, are we going to go to 1 million this time round? No. But if we move into a super cycle event, that only that will be possible. So it is highly speculative to try and say that 200K, 300K BTC. I think we need to start moving the bar down lower based on this trend. Now, if we look at a few interesting ideas, what I have here, and this is what I wanted to show you guys Friday when I was so tired, I basically spaced up and messed up my own analysis. So I've got a normal flip time zone, and I've got marked out the 38.2 and the 618. And I'm just going to make it a little less transparent so you can see the area. Now, when we look at this and we move this time fib from halving to halving, technically what you will find is that if we start looking at the amount of time that it takes, we can start establishing a trend. Now, within this first cycle, it's really hard to get one chart that has all the data for us. So I'm just going to exclude that for now and move it on to the second cycle or the first halving. Okay, so this is the first 4-year cycle, second 4-year cycle, this being price after the first halving. So if it sounds confusing, I'll just stick to first halving from now and going forward. Okay. So when we at the 38.2 on the time fib extension, 38.2, that is when we tend to top. And when we at the 618, that is when we tend to bottom. Don't believe me? Let's move this on to the second, between the second 2 halvings. And you'll find that that is truly the case there as well. So we tend to top around the 38.2 and we tend to top around a bottom around the 618. So if we move this onto our previous bull cycle, and we do exactly the same, we topped around the 38.2 and we bottomed around the 618. So now it does really look like we've got a secret little sauce here that's going to help us move through the next bull cycle. So we can manage the price point where we want to be, but we also can manage the time expectancy, because people tend to, when you're celebrating massive gains, tend to lose sight on when the potential reversal is going to be. So let's turn this around and say, move it on to the next halving and say, theoretically, that halving is going to happen the 1st of May if nobody deletes Bitcoin. And from that point onwards, at least 4 years going into the future, there will be yet another halving. So it's safe to assume that where we are now, and this is logarithmic, so a trend line doesn't really convey the price gains. But it's worthwhile to note that even a conservative target means that maybe 100K would be as good as it's going to get for BTC. So you're not necessarily going to see all these gains unless gazillions and gazillions of market cap or market share enters Bitcoin. Brings us to the alts. So we want to be looking at the alts. This takes dominance into effect. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, and we take a big breather and say, okay, right, this was when it was just Bitcoin, and then Ethereum, and all these small alts came into existence. And as the crypto market expands and expands with more innovation, more technology, more categories of areas that can utilize blockchain and crypto technology, you find a situation where the dominance will trend down. And this is inevitably a really good sign of a healthy ecosystem, as Bitcoin has been designed, developed, and the innovation around Bitcoin is, I don't want to criticize it, but it is slow in comparison to what is new and what is happening out there as well. So what you would expect is dominance doing this over the long term. So I'm expecting the dominance to do what this time around? Potentially try and make a lower low. So heading over to the 30%. So which means that there is really good alt season possibilities upon us. It's going to happen. And this means then if we look at where the dominance is now, currently breaking down, it's safe to assume that from this point onwards, should the trend hold and Bitcoin consolidate, meaning going sideways, or trend up, and the dominance keeps doing this, that our alts will be doing really well. Retail bought in on a dream. Retail said to everybody, and everybody said to their friends, buy Bitcoin because there's going to be a spot ETF. Remember the history of BlackRock? It's only had like one ETF not approved. So this is going to happen, and everybody bought. And now what? It's just sitting there. So people are no longer greedy. The market didn't give them what they wanted to see. So that uncertainty ultimately counts in our favor should some of these alts start moving. Now, before we look at the alts, guys, trade your alts on Bybit. Thanks for today's video sponsor. It's Bybit. Link to Bybit is in the video description. Support this YouTube channel. Open your Bybit account today, and also take benefit of the deposit rewards that link will be giving you. So whatever you deposit within your Bybit, there will be additional deposit rewards coming your way. Free money in your account, guys. Come on, how does it get better than that? So looking at the alts, two big movers being Telos and Celestia. I think let's start off with Telos real quick. So where did I hide my Telos? There we go. So Telos, we had a cup and handle technical analysis idea. Now, I've cleaned up all the squabbles, and I've added some real professional looking lines for you guys so that you can follow along. Cup and handle basically explains that when you have the cup, there should be a handle forming. So the fact that it's trending, it's leading in the socials as such, and it's not really doing much means that there is people taking profit on this project. To do what? To bring it back down, to grab the buys. So your job is to do what? Not do what the majority is doing, but understand what their intent is. They're buying because they think it's going to go higher. So if it goes lower, buy, because they will either be trapped or they will be giving it to you at a discount. And then when the market shows them that they would have been right, they would buy back, driving the price higher. Celestia. So the last discussion I had with you guys explained that this thing is in price discovery, which means that it's going to try and make an impulse. So it's typically the easiest way to explain that is if you use Elliott wave theory, and the argument is that you're going to go through 5 waves to the upside. The tricky thing is to try and identify between 2 and 4, because that's when you want to add to your project to ride the last wave. And the key to that is to have an RSI that's going lower. And what we did do is we've got a higher high in price, a lower low in the RSI. So we had a lot of good buys chucked in on Celestia there. So from our original buy zone, Celestia is up at least 112%. So you've doubled your money for just watching a YouTube video. Now the big key is to where can this go? Now, typically, when you look at the fib extensions of something like this, your 1618 would be your highest probable turnaround time. So you can, at around the 1 extension, start laddering out or taking some profits. Why? Well, to move back to this, eventually this then has to become a 1 and a 2 and a 3, 4 and a 5, meaning that the bull market is still early and there's still a lot that's going to happen, which brings us right back to this original chart. There's still a lot of time where the projects like these are going to move up considerably as their market caps are going to catch up to that of Bitcoin and mature as more people know about them and see how they gain. Remember, nothing sells as amazingly as something that goes up. irrespective of what is the driving force behind it. People want to buy something that's going to make them money. They don't really care too much about what's behind it. And I'm talking about the lazy retail investor. Okay. So that being said, now you have a good idea of the targets for Celestia, and we have a good idea of what we want to see within Telos. This is an interesting article I found. So Bitcoin's technical suggests deeper pullback to 38K according to analysts. Okay, so we can go through all their explanations as such, but the MACD is negative. The bigger time frame RSIs are showing that, and we've got RSI bearish divergence. So bringing back to BTC, what is the problem that I have? Well, when you look at this high that's sitting over here, when you look at this high over here, and you look at the RSI, and you look at the fact that we've made the higher high, we've gone to our target. Remember, I said to you guys, Bitcoin's on its way to 48K. Bullish as ever. New support for the bull trend is 44K. So we need to stay above it. So at this stage, Bitcoin was at 46.9. And then from that point onwards, Bitcoin did go and hit our 48, 49K target. Also, what I said to you guys is stay bullish as long as Bitcoin stays above the 44K level. So there's a question mark here, a really big question mark. Bitcoin isn't above 44 at the moment. Should we remain bullish? I've now given you guys a buy zone for Telos. I've explained that Celestia is on a run, and it does mean that these projects can do just that, move in the opposite direction, or Celestia can go hit that target today before everything sells. This is what makes it so interesting, so uncertain, because if you try and have everything fit to your own visual narrative of how you think the sequence of events should be, and when I talk sequence of events, I talk about charts like this where it's alt season. It has to be this, then that. You're going to find yourself tripping over these things. So keep it light, keep it loose. Understand that these things might sometimes move in strange directions. Now, as a little bit closing remark on BTC, real quick, higher high, bearish divergence is there. The idea is we should not be falling below this pivot. Up until now, each and every divergence we had, each and every divergence was met with what? Price staying above the critical pivot level. Can you see? So although we're wicking through it, we're staying above it. This tells us ignore the divergence, expect more. Then we had yet another divergence. Let's mark that point out. Price fell below it, tested the previous range, got above it, and then went. So that's why there's still bullish undertones, because if that is the case, is price just doing this? And if so, where should we be buying back? And this is where this 38 target comes in. So there's good reason to believe that price is going to want to go to this CME gap that's sitting around 40,000, 38,000, and potentially 39,000, potentially 38K. So expect pressure in the market. CME gaps tend to get filled. As you know, we've now gone through a whole cycle of these where I've explained that these CME gaps tend to get filled. And once they get filled, if they create a new gap, price will go and revisit that before it decides to continue on in its trend. So that said, there's still upward targets for 52K, but the possibility is that we might hit 38K before we start going to 52K. Rest my case for BTC, give you guys basically everything that I can. So looking at the charts real quick brings me to this interesting wick that I've got marked out here. You guys know the drill. Once you have a wick like this, if price stays above it, you go for the higher high, as explained, and the buyback, 50% of the wick. Oh, let's just select the right one. 50% of the wick. Okay. So Bitcoin is as close as potentially be in a buy zone for short time upside. So short time meaning we could potentially go to this 44K, turn it into resistance, hit that 38K, take 38K. Take note, guys, then I'll be buying the dip to then smash this and just go ballistic. But coins that are in the buy zone is coins that are not necessarily desirable for you at the moment. You're looking at coins like Comp. It's still in its lateral range. Remember what Solana linked it when we were buying within that range? So now it's feeling like a genius transaction. Everything is amazing, but projects like these those would be the ones like comp. Let's bring that one and I'm going to close it off there. Those would be the ones that still has all that work to do. And that's what you need to do. So you can actually do the following. Teach a man to fish moment. Go through the coins. Look for those that are flat, that has not done anything yet. And that's where your buyers need to be, because they will be the next ones moving. You cannot expect Solana to 10x every week. Maybe it can, but it's not sustainable gains. And to close off this, I mean, we're at 42 minutes again. Any pump like this is not sustainable. Therefore, there's a reversal to find some sort of a floor. Okay. Right, guys. That's it. We're done for the day. You have a lovely day. Enjoy your week. May the candles ever print in your favor. And as always, keep hustling, my friends.